At Manhattan University, a graduate degree is not out of reach. You'll gain real-world skills, credentials employers value, and connections to New York City's top companies. Choose from their new Master of Science degrees in healthcare informatics, digital marketing and analytics, business analytics, or financial analytics, all built around hands-on learning and industry partnerships. Graduate ready to lead, not just work. Take the next step at manhattan.edu/graduate. Manhattan University. Lead the future.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi. Okay, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Welcome back to Full Court with Sean Spicer on WABC. First inaugural show here on the network. I'm excited. The one guest, they said, we can get anyone you want. You know who I said I wanted? Steve Moore. I wanted Steve Moore, and I'm being dead serious because I'm not kidding. This is all on text. If the Spicer files like the Epstein, I don't want any redactions. I don't want to have to get deposed and like the Clintons, because it's all there. Because I said, look, you guys heard this. Steve Moore, welcome to the show. I don't know if you heard the first part, but I basically said, look, this election is all about the economy, and there's no one better to tell us where the economy is going to be than Steve Moore. So let me just back up before I get into that. What did you think of the speech?
Well, Sean, by the way, congratulations on the new show. Is it full court press or full court?
Just full court. We're doing full court. John Katzmatita said you got to earn the full court press. We're just going to start with full court.
Okay, got it. Well, congratulations, and I'm glad we're colleagues now because, as you know, you've been a frequent guest on the More Money Show, which is out from 1 to 3 p.m. on Saturdays on this great WABC station. And by the way, John Katzmatidis has built a powerhouse. I believe this is the most important talk radio station in America. So congratulations. And and by the way, thank you for your service to our country, which you did with Donald Trump in his first term. It was amazing. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
Honor to be with you. So I'm bullish. I'm super bullish, and I think this economy is in almost every area getting better every day. Remember, Joe Biden dug us into a pretty deep hole. It was. Can you imagine if Kamala Harris were president today?
As an economist, when you're sitting there listening to that speech, was it that, did you get it? There's certain things that I love, right? I love hearing about the Save America. There's certain political things. But as an economist, when you were listening to that speech, we were like, yes, more of that, more of that, more of that.
So let me just say one thing. I'm very proud of the fact that when I saw the president about 10 days ago, I spent about 20 minutes with him. And one of the first things I said to him, a God honest truth, you're not even going to believe this, Sean, but I said, Mr. President, I just want to congratulate you. And he said, well, why? And I said, well, you've done something no other president has done. And he said, well, what was that? And I said, well, you've proven 22 Nobel economists wrong. And he used that line in the speech. So my little piece of immortality. But anyway, but it happens to be true, by the way. 22, you remember this, Sean, when he was running for re-election, 22 Nobel Prize economists said, oh my God, he's going to cause a second Great Depression. There's going to be a massive stock sell-off. Inflation's going to go through the roof. Wrong. And so we've seen, a huge spurt in the market. We've seen inflation come down, and the world is not a flame.
So that wait, hold on. You buried the lead, Steve Moore. Was that your line? Because I thought it was awesome. Because I loved his delivery of it. But his oh my God, that's so cool.
And by the way, I have proof of that because when I met with the president in the Oval Office. That was, as I said, the first thing I said to him, because those are the kinds of things, Donald Trump, you always want to say something he'll remember. And so, a big smile came on his face. And he said to Natalie, Natalie, his assistant, there's just the three of us. He said, Natalie, tweet this out or, whatever. So put this on Truth Social. And you can look it up. It says, Steve Moore, the great economist, says that I've proven 22 economists wrong. So anyway, look, the economy is strong.
By the way, I got to say this. I helped put together the first joint address. I know, the idea that it made it in, I thought that was a killer line because it was a reminder to everybody who pockets the achievements. Everyone goes, yeah, move on. And I'm like, no. You guys all crapped on him. You told him he was wrong. And I love the fact that he reminds people sometimes, the Democrats, you voted against this. All you economists said it was wrong.
And on top of that, Sean, these were the same when you were running, helping run the president's campaign in 2016. That's exactly what they said back then. Remember? Oh, my God, Donald Trump is going to destroy the economy. And then he rebuilt the American economy. And then they said the same thing, and they got the story completely wrong twice now. And that's one of the things I love about Donald Trump is he has this habit of proving his critics completely wrong. But they don't stop. They don't slow down. They're never chastened.
Yeah. So, again, I love the line. But was there, when he started citing off these, like, the accomplishments, he talked about Trump accounts, and you and I saw each other at that event, actually, with Secretary Bessent. And then he talks about the Trump RX. Like, what was, again, I want to get inside the mind of an economist. Like, when you're hearing the policies, there's got to be one or two that you're like, yes, that's the one. Like, keep going, keep going.
Well, I love the Trump accounts because I want America to be a nation of capitalists and owners. You know, and that's what this program will do. Every American, starting at the age of 1 year old, will own a piece of the rock, and so that is a fantastic achievement. And by the way, this is going to mean that a child born today, by the time they turn 25, they could be a millionaire. Think about that. I mean, it's just an unbelievable program that he has launched there. I love the fact that he has one of my favorite lines is that it happens to be true. We're producing more oil and gas today than any other time in American history. What big surprise, the gas prices are down. When you produce more of something, guess what? Its price falls. I love the fact that he took on the kind of the green energy movement, and then we've shut down. Remember the electric vehicle mandate under Biden? Oh, God. That
I still hate the way my car at stop sign stops, and I love the way that they undid that because I'm like, stop it! Yes, they've actually undone the mandates that so many of the things and made life better.
And one, he talked about the big beautiful bill that this is going to save the average family about $2,000 a year this year, which is a big savings. I wish he would. One thing I don't recall him talking about, which I wish he had, because I think it's one of his greatest achievements. In that big beautiful bill, we provided about 1 million scholarships for low-income kids to go to the school of their choice. And that is amazing that he's done that. I don't think he mentioned it. I wish he would talk about that more, because he is the school choice president.
Yeah, no, actually, it's funny because, when you think about a 2-hour-long speech, you can only fit. I mean, at some point, they forgot the kitchen sink, too. But I want to get to where the economy's going, because I said this, as a lead into you that I honestly believe. But before I do that, I just got to say, one of the things that I really do love about these Trump accounts is that you mentioned how they build wealth, right? Social Security to me is a scam, which is we take your money, then the government spends it somewhere else. We give you an IOU, we hope it works, and it's a really low rate of return. What I loved about the model of the Trump account is that it's mine, it's yours. I mean, meaning like it's a kid's, but like the government doesn't touch it and doesn't have their grubby hands on it. It's in an index fund. It grows. Yep. Like and it teaches them about financial literacy. It's like, I actually love the model, right? To me, it's not just what it gives people, but it's like, it shows that like the government isn't the solution. And if we did the same to Social Security, which the Dems freaked out about, like what I love is that from the jump, when they created this, they didn't build it inside a government. They said, you own it. It's indexed. You can't touch it till you're 18. So that don't worry, you're not going to like go to Vegas or something. But like what I love about it is that this is not another government type program that the government controls, that the government can raid. It's yours.
Absolutely. And it will make American young people capitalists. I'm so one of the disturbing things about Americans is, if you look at like, how did Bandami win the election in New York City, and look what he's doing now. Look how he's destroying the city. It was young people who voted for him. And that's partly because of what they're learning in the schools. And they're not learning about the benefits of free market capitalism. And this will socialize Americans to the idea, look, when America does better, I do better. When businesses do better, I do better. These are in index funds, so that you're owning a little piece of every stock. And, to borrow a line from John F. Kennedy, it will create a rising tide that lifts all boats. And that's what this program will do.
All right. So I said this in the lead into to you coming on. If you can tell me where the economy is in Q2, beginning of Q3, so I'm thinking like, July, August-ish, ideally. Like if people feel fired up, like, wow, then I keep the Republican team on the field. I vote for them. If I feel like it's still kind of limping along, I'm not so sure. So just give me the news. Where are we going to be July, August?
I think we're going to see continued improvement. Here's the problem, Sean, and you're the political expert. I'm the economist, but we have an economy that objectively, if you just look at the objective evidence, has vastly improved. In other words, like our data shows, the average family has in just the last year after inflation, about $2,500 more income. That's the average family. And yet the polls are showing that people are angry about the economy. I mean, there's just no denying that. I mean, my wife, when she comes back from the grocery store, she's angry. What's a steak on that? And that, so what we need to see is a merge between the perception of the economy versus the reality, which is getting better. And as it gets better, I think you're going to see the voter discontent will lessen, and because you can't deny reality for months and months and months and months and months. So yes, the economy is going to continue to get better, in part because, don't forget, Sean, people are starting to feel. People used to come up to me on the street. They'd be angry at me. Hey, this was late last year. They say, "Hey, Steve Moore, where's that tax cut you said I was going to get?" Blah, blah, blah. I said, "Just wait. You're going to get it in January." And now people are getting it. You see what I'm saying, Sean? Now people are. So
wait, is this a politics problem or in other words, are you saying to me that we need more time for the policy to bake, or
Yes.
is it that there's a messaging thing that we need to tell people, we need to talk about it more? Is it one, both?
Both.
Is it a little of
It's
both?
Yeah, and that's where you come in, because you're the guy who's supposed to be selling this. So,
well, I'm helping. I'll help.
Yeah, but we don't want to look. Here's the problem, and I forget whether Trump used this line, but he sort of hinted at it. People like my wife are angry when they come back from the grocery store. They're angry, and why? Because everything's so damn expensive. Why? Not Donald Trump. Biden.
Right.
Biden.
Well, I keep saying,
Steve,
Steve, I keep telling people, here's the problem. Biden, let's just say that when Trump left office, everything was a 0. Biden jacked it to 10. Trump's got it back down to 5. And I get it. It's like, yes, that's progress, but people still want it back down to the 0 from before, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to see continued reductions. And Trump said this in the speech, that over the last 3 months, the inflation rate has fallen to about 1.8%. That's right. Slightly below the Fed target. I think the American people want to see that inflation rate come down to 0. And we could do that. So we will see. But, you look at the fact that we have, the record stock market, gas, it used to be gas prices were the one measure we used.
Me too.
To determine inflation. What are you paying at the pump? Well, guess what?
Yeah.
We're paying I paid $2.69 the other day, $2.69 a gallon.
It's funny, I used to drive to school and I'd collect gas money from the guys that I'd give a ride to. And I remember specifically searching out a place in Warren, Rhode Island that was 99 cents. So, I mean, the gas was, let's just say it was between $1 and $1.10. Okay. That was 30 something years ago, and it's $2. And I mean, it is mind blowing to think about where gas is, because that was always it still is my barometer. When I drive to the top of the street, the other day it was $2.89. It was $2.83 the week. I mean, like, that's how I look at, you talk about your wife going to the grocery store. I do that a little, but generally I actually still look at gas as the person, as the thing. So is there other policies that the president should be pursuing to juice this more, or is the die cast?
Well, one line that I think all Republicans should be using, because it happens to be the God honest truth, is that if people are concerned about affordability, and every poll shows they are, we should basically not just be saying this is, the residue of Biden, but we should also be making the point that, in fact, we had this in our hotline the other day. Do you know what 5 states have the highest cost of living?
California, New York, Illinois,
New Jersey.
How am I doing? I mean, seriously, am I doing all right?
Yeah, you got them all, Massachusetts, New York, California, New Jersey, and my home state of Illinois. Now, do you know what states have the lowest cost of living? Oh, let's see, Florida, Alabama, Arkansas, Utah. So my point is what Republicans have to start saying, especially as we move forward, towards the midterms and then the 2028 election is, look what happens when Democrats run things. They run it into the ground. How are you going to make?
Don't you think that was great?
Gavin Newsom going to run for president when he's running the most expensive state? Are we going to really want to make America look like California?
Oh, and that's what I said, in the first part of the show, which is what Trump did beautifully. And I know everyone's like, oh my God, no president's ever done this. He made that contrast. These are the knuckleheads that voted against all this stuff, tax cuts, et cetera, border security. And I thought that what you just said is perfect because at some point you have to understand elections are about choices.
Yeah, you do.
Okay, I mean,
you have to.
So let me just get back to this for a second because we're running short on time. But if the president picks you up and says, "Hey, I love it. Great suggestions on the speech, Steve. I used them as you saw." What is there another policy? Is there something I need to do or say between now and say September when people are going to really start determining who they're voting for? What is the Steve Moore answer to that?
I think it is, the Reagan line that worked for Ronald Reagan in the early 80s, which is stay the course. We're fixing things. Don't go back to the way it was. Keep reminding people how bad things were and how day by day, things are getting better. And, that happened under Reagan. It happened in Trump's first term, and it's happening now. And so, but I do think the one thing, and I wonder, you're the political pro, but, Bill Clinton had that cheesy line that sort of worked. Remember that famous line, I feel your pain?
I also remember the one, I did not have sexual, anyway.
So anyway, I mean, I think Trump should just make sure, and the one that's kind of tricky is housing. How do we make sure that people, young people can buy housing? That's a tricky one. I don't have the answer to that. But
I do. I mean, look, I got to be honest with you. I'm a veteran. I use a VA loan. I actually brought this up with a couple of policy people. I said, why don't you create a first-time homeowners program based on the VA, which is, hey, if you're a first-time owner, we don't want to have another, boom, but make it easier for them to have a lower down payment, which is the barrier to entry. Anyway, that's my take. As you may know from our previous conversations, I got a D in economics in college, so I'll leave the actual policy to you, but I do think that there's a way to do that. So
yeah. Well, otherwise, it's hard to find anything that's not going well in the country. And, you look at by the way, the last thing I'll say, fighting crime, violent crime is down 30% in 1 year. That's the biggest decline ever. And that's like a tax cut because who wants to start a business in an area where you've got armed robberies or, who wants to buy a home in a place where you got people murdering each other? So Trump talked about that. That's an amazing achievement. 30% reduction in violent crime in 1 year.
Totally agree. Steve Moore, thanks for joining us on this Sunday morning. I really appreciate
on the new
it.
Show, my friend.
Thank you, sir. I'll see you soon.
Yep. Bye.
All right, guys, we'll be right back.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our country has to offer, especially health care. Across every state, every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.